In my junior year in high school, and leading into my senior year, I began to get into poetry, right? Prior to that time in my life, I never really thought about using poetry, never thought about writing poetry. I kind of thought poetry was whack, all right? I thought it was really corny. I only saw it as something that was like just old English males. I couldn't get with it, right? But like most things, at least for me, at that particular point in time, if I knew that young ladies would like it, that was all I needed to hear. And so there was this girl who I was trying to impress, and she was really big into poetry. And I was like, poetry? She was like, yeah, poetry is amazing. You should look into it. You should even think about writing. And I was like, me? Write poetry? Nah, you got the wrong dude. That's just not happening, right? But the more I got to know her, and the more I started to be attracted to her, I said, hey, I was going to do whatever it took to get to know her on a different level, right? And so I started writing poetry. Just as a means to try and get this girl. That's all it was. It wasn't Rosa Red, Violet Blue. No, I mean, that's really corny, really basic, right? But I had some poetry I was putting together. And I remember attending this poetry set. It was on 45th in Michigan. And the place was called Some Like It Black. And it was a poetry set that folks from all around the city would come out to, and they would get on stage and they would share their poetry, right? They would get up, they'd do a little piece, people would clap. They wouldn't snap their fingers like I know that's what is common nowadays, right? But they would actually clap for the poet after they finished. And so I was thinking to myself, like, I really would like to do that, right? And I knew that if I was able to perform this piece in front of this girl, I was for sure going to be in the right space, right? And so I got up to Nerve Energy one day, did the piece, right? Went over well, and it opened me up to an entirely different world. So it started for me, poetry started for me at 45th in Michigan, but then it went to this place called the Java OASIS. And the Java OASIS was a spot on 22nd in Michigan, where I used to come out every single Tuesday. Me and my guys would come out every single Tuesday. We'd go to this poetry set. I try to get on the list. I do a little piece and what have you. But I was also like learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about history that I wasn't being taught in class. Poetry was eye-opening for me, right? And it was something I was really dedicated to. And it's something I still kind of dabble in here and there. But at that particular point in my life, there would not be a week that went by without me going to attend a poetry set. And so critical race theory came about in an interesting way. I was in my class here at UIC, and I believe I was a freshman, and I saw this guy named David Stovall, who was a professor over in the College of Education. And he came into my class, and he was talking about hip-hop and race. And I was like, word. I like what he had to say. I really didn't have like a framework for it, or really didn't understand what he was talking about in terms of the theoretical perspective that guided his work. But I liked what he had to say about understanding hip-hop, understanding race from an academic perspective. And so I remember coming into his office and I saw this book, right? This book here, right? Critical Race Theory. And I was like, critical race theory? And I was like, race theory, right? That just sounds deep, right? I was like, okay, I need to know a little bit more about that, right? Time went on, I get into graduate school, and I'm in his class, and now he's my advisor. Now he helped me throughout the process of finishing up undergrad and then also eventually getting into grad school. So I'm in his class, and it's my first semester as a graduate student. And so he puts me on, and he's talking about critical race theory, and he's talking about the work there, and I start to really understand what that material meant. Okay? Because a big part of critical race theory is using the experiences of people of color to explain their relationship to race and racism. And so when I was in this class and reading these materials and he was talking about his experiences, it really spoke to me. It's something that kind of gelled with me, obviously, right? So it became a part of my dissertation, and now you have it here in terms of how we can use it as a tool to make sense of our world, right? And so this is how I began to get into critical race theory. Started with poetry, getting to know a little bit more about myself, trying to impress a girl, right? And it evolved to really trying to get more understanding of this world as we know it, okay?